Hey guys, I'm Dr. Josh. Today's episode is going to be about neck pain and shoulder pain. And in Jiu-Jitsu, if you're watching this, you know that they tend to happen together. There is an inherent risk for Jiu-Jitsu for a lot of people just trying to strangle you, trying to hurt your neck. It is just a common part of our sport. In addition, with Americanas and Kimuras and arm locks and shoulder locks and omoplatas and going across in triangles, you can really start to cause damage to that shoulder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some things that you should actually avoid when it comes to your strength training schedule, and maybe even some things that you could even do to help your shoulder, to help your neck, and to start making your life a little bit easier on the mats. First thing is you need to understand where the sport lives. Where does your body live with this sport? It means that when we're wrestling, when we're doing jiu-jitsu, when we're framing, when we're in guard, it is really advantageous for our elbows to be in. If our elbows are out, the more out they are, the more over the head that we get, the more likely you are probably in danger at this point in time. So there's not really a point in jiu-jitsu where if your arms are over your head, you're probably in a good or an advantage position. So just knowing that, we don't train with our arms over our head. So if you don't train with your arms over your head, then why would you train with your arms over your head? This goes back to pressing and pushing and pulling, right? So if we press with a bar or with dumbbells over our weight to strengthen our shoulders, what we have to do, we have to understand the mechanics. As we press over our head, we have to have one, mobility to do that, strength to do that, but inherently our neck has to go forward, right? So if I press my neck forward or press my arm up, the neck has to translate forward. If you're dealing with a shoulder injury or a neck injury, we're actually creating less space. So if you watch my neck here, there's less space for the nerves, there's less space, and there's more tension into our neck. So just by doing overhead pressing alone, you're probably making your shoulder and or your neck worse. So it's really important to avoid that to begin with. Now, I understand that some people are going to completely disagree with us and disagree with what I just said. I'm not saying all overhead pressing is bad, but I am saying that maybe if you lack mobility within the mid-back, within the shoulders, and maybe pressing extremely heavy over your head is probably not the most benefit. There's really not a lot of functional capacity to overhead pressing unless you're trying to get good at overhead pressing. If you really think about a day-to-day life and a day-to-day activities, even in high-level sports, there is not a lot of sports that really require you to press overhead with a heavy weight and have that translate to hardcore functional fitness or functional lifestyle, especially when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Again, our sport is here, it is here, it is here, it's swimming around, it's keeping our elbows in. Why would we want to train this here? So I'm not saying don't do shoulder raises. I'm not saying don't do some exercise that I'm going to show you later, but I am going to say if we are going to overpress, we have to accept the risk that we're going to be hurting our shoulders, and we're going to have to accept the risk that we're going to potentially be increasing our neck injuries. So I'm going to show you one great exercise that's going to help increase shoulder strength without hurting your neck. So the first exercise that we're going to talk about is the landmine press. Now again, this is not a rehab-based exercise. This is not going to be an exercise that you're going to likely be doing when it comes to fixing a shoulder or neck injury, but this is going to be one of those exercises that you build strength, you build power, and you get a lot of that overhead press benefits, but without the risk of one, shoulder impingement, not having the mobility within your mid-back, and also not injuring your neck. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a bar and we're going to have it up into this position right here. You can't see this in this position here, but this bar is wedged up into a landmine hole, or you can put this up into a corner of a room. And what we can do here is with the bar in front of me, I can take a staggered stance here, just like this, and I can press. You can have weight on here. You can do this kneeling. You could do kind of the rotation stuff and press and add speed and explosiveness. But what we're doing here, if you see this position, we're pushing at like about a 45 to 60 degree angle, but we're not going over our head where it's like this, right? We're not hurting our neck or hurting our shoulder. So this is a landmine press. You can really get good strength out of here. You could do a lot of power out of here. Heck, you could even do this in a kneeling position and come up. You could even do any type of rotational stuff with this, 2 arms. You can have a lot of fun here, and you could do a lot of pressing movements without risking your shoulder health as well as your neck health. So again, when you think about jiu-jitsu and wrestling, we think a lot about keeping our arms in, our hands in this position. And if you look at my neck and head from the side, it's here, right? We want to stay nice and comfortable in here, right? And as a result, we tend to round our upper back. And if we are trying to push over our head, if we do not have the mobility within our mid-back, we're going to be straining our neck, and we're going to need to be using our shoulder improperly, right? We're going to try to be pressing from this position, not from this position. So for that reason alone, even if you don't press overhead, it's going to be really important for you to not only be able to do some of this mobility work that we're going to be talking about, but to do this for the long term for your general health and wellness. And it's going to translate really well for jiu-jitsu. So we want to make sure that our mid-back is staying really mobile. And so we're not just doing this, but we're doing anything that we can do to help flexion as well as extension. And what I like to do is I like to just get some gentle mobility, cat camels into the mid-back. I will sit on a peanut. I will do some foam rolling within the mid-back. But another thing I like to do is extension and rotations. So extension, rotation, coming in and up. So I'm pushing through the ground here. So if you see my hand here, I'm pushing off of the ground. I'm using my tricep. I'm opening up my chest. I'm poking my elbow up to the sky, and I'm reaching up, and I'm getting a lot of rotation through that. If that's pretty easy for you, you can come down and you can peek through the window and come through. Peek through the window and come through. There are so many different types of mobility exercises that you can do to help your shoulder and to help your neck. One of the best things that you can do is stay mobile through that mid-back, especially if you're getting, clobbered in the head, you're staying nice and tight. This is going to not only keep you on the mats longer, but it's going to help you prevent a lot of injuries when it comes to the shoulder and when it comes to the neck. So keep your thoracic spine really, really strong, but also really, really mobile. Another easy exercise that we can do is what we call open book, closed book. And we can lay onto our side here is just coming here, opening the book, closing the book, opening the book, closing the book. Just getting a little bit of rotations and coming in through here is really going to help. You got to remember that there's a lot of different exercises that will help mobilize the mid-back, but when you take an active approach, not just sitting on a peanut and not just foam rolling all the time, but when you actually actively move your body, it's going to be a lot more therapeutic and it's going to be a lot harder work, but you're going to end up having a better result. Again, we have to keep a good thoracic mobility in order to have good stability and strength within our shoulders and with our necks. You do this and you do this right, you're going to reduce the amount of shoulder injuries that you're having, you're going to reduce the amount of neck injuries you're having. And if you just take this approach and you just take that landmine press, and if you just take this type of concept that we just went over, you're going to dramatically notice that your shoulder problems and your neck problems are probably going to get a lot better, and you're going to be able to stay on the mat longer, and you're going to be a lot safer on those mats as well.